The high quality workout for the week of January 5th is a mixed purpose workout of speed and steady state. This is another transition workout where we're adding a little bit more higher intensity. The full workout is not at the same intensity, but it's another increase in dosage. Really, it's only 5 minutes, but it's probably the fastest 5 minutes that you run since you've come back since your year-ending race. So we're going 90, 75, 60, 45, and 30. So we're starting at 90 and dropping 15 seconds for each one. And we're running those hard and fast. Now, if your re-entry into quality work hasn't been quite as smooth as we would have liked, or your year-ending race was later than monumental, maybe we're not quite ready for that intensity. So you can run these at maybe mile race pace, which for 90 seconds isn't too challenging because that's roughly a quarter mile. So we can still do these, but if you're just re-entering the high quality, don't overdo it. If you've been running hard and you've been doing some fast workouts already, then hit it as hard as you care to. Obviously, get a good warm up. That's 5 minutes of fast running. We add 5 minutes of recovery because recovery is equal time recovery jog, and that's 10 minutes. And then we go into a steady state run, which for most of you is 3 to 4 miles, and it's written as up to 85%, but as close as you can be to threshold for as much of that steady state run, the better. More training benefit, better training effect. So we're after that. And after that speed warm up, it shouldn't be too hard to get to threshold, because that's the most difficult thing about threshold is getting up to it. Well, and then maintaining after a long period of time. But that's what we're trying to do. When we look at your effort, your pace, your heart rate in the download, what I'm looking at is how quickly did you get your heart rate up there and how long did it stay there? And even if you're not using heart rate, I'll take a look at that. And if the numbers seem plausible, that'll give me some good feedback on how much time you spent close to threshold. So that's 4 to 5 miles of quality for most people, given the 5 minutes of fast running and then the steady state run. So somewhere in that area. So it's a good workout. The threshold isn't all that difficult once you get there. It's more giving the effort and being focused on it than actual really hard effort. So a good combination there. The moderate quality workout, continuous hills. We're doing 20 to 30 minutes. Target 30 minutes, and if at 20 you feel like that's enough, that's fine. It's a moderate quality workout, and you can do that in 1 to 3 sets. So if you're doing a half hour, you can do a half hour continuously, or you can do 10-minute segments. If you have one good hill, do 10 minutes, go run your normal easy run pace for maybe half mile, come back, do another 10 minutes, and so on. Give a good strong effort on these. Again, if you're re-entering quality, which most of you have done a number of quality workouts now, don't overcook it, but also know where you are in the week. You're coming off of a good workout here of 4 to 5 miles of high quality, and then we have a little bit of extra bonus for the long run. So don't overcook it and be really struggling here, or if you're not fully recovered, don't test your hamstrings or calves or whatever by overdoing the hills. As I always say, if you have a good hill or a couple of good hills, great. If you don't, and they're not quite as impressive in their steepness or the length of the hill, then you should be running faster to compensate for not quite as good of a hill. Now, I've talked about this a number of times, so I'm trying to get it from a different angle. If you're thinking, well, are hills really all that important? I'm getting ready for a flat race. I'm not sure I need to do that. For those of you getting ready for Boston, you're not raising those questions. But if you are, think about Walter Payton. Every course he ran on was pretty flat, right? 100 yards at a time. And he was notorious for the time that he spent on the Indiana Dunes in Northwest Indiana getting ready for the football season. Arthur Lydiard, who revolutionized endurance training, and everybody borrows from him, whether they know it or not, he had a full hill segment in his year. So they would spend 4 to 6 weeks doing just hills 3 times a week. So pretty important there. And he had some great track runners that never ran hilly marathons, probably ran cross country of some sort, but they were track specialists. Sebastian Coe, 800, 1500 meter runner, a couple of Olympic medals here and there. he didn't run on any hilly races. Again, maybe he threw in some cross country, but he was getting ready for track season running the hills. And then everybody that lives at altitude, and you should be running hills. And this is a nice way to do it. I think it's kind of easy mentally because we're not doing hill reps necessarily. Yes, you are repeating the hill, but we're not saying 12 times a hill. It's however long it is. We're counting time going up, counting time coming down. You just don't count any time on the flat. So continuous hill stream moderate quality workout. Long run this week, steady effort. At different points in the year, I wouldn't say steady effort. I would say marathon pace or half marathon pace, or be a little more specific on that. But because of the time of the year that we're in, it might be really cold. The footing might be a little questionable. Who knows what's going on going into a long run. It's also your first. So it could be a little demoralizing going into this and trying to run marathon pace and realizing that's marathon goal pace. I'll be ready for that in a few months. I'm not ready for that now. That felt way too hard. So we're just thinking about steady. And a half to 2/3 of your total mileage should be at a steady effort. And I know steady is ambiguous, so I'm going to try to give a little bit more description on that. If we're looking at VO2 or heart rate, 75 to 85%, so that high-end aerobic effort level, don't charge into 85% in the first mile of it, because it will turn into a race if you're going to hold that for very long. But get a little bit faster than a normal long run and just hang out there for a lot of miles. Yes, for most of you, it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of marathon goal pace. The faster you are, the less likely that is to be the case. If you're on the slower end, it might be faster than marathon goal pace. But eventually, you're going to transition to where that will be more difficult. This should be comfortably uncomfortable. So if you think about it, you realize, I'm not all that comfortable. I have some tension in my legs, I have some tension in my lungs. But if you are thinking about other things, or you're really good at focusing on right now, it's not that bad. A good test for this, if the effort is right now, I'm fine. If I think about how many miles I have to go, I'm not sure. So that's a good place to be. When you get into the last mile of this, most of you, even if you felt like this was really difficult, in that last mile, you'll pick it up and go faster, proving that you were comfortable, at least physiologically. Maybe psychologically it was a little uncomfortable, and there's certainly training effect to that. So we want prolonged tension out of this. And it's not a real high level, it's not racing level tension, but we want to prolong that tension. All the time, I have people coming up to me with this great question in their mind: how did I cramp during my marathon or my half marathon? I did my long runs. I had a banana before. Not that that's going to make or break you, but they had their banana before. They felt like they were hydrated well enough. They took their gels. Why did I cramp? The reason they cramped was their long runs were not approaching the goal pace, whether it's marathon, half marathon, whatever. So on race day, they went faster than they're going for long periods. And typically they went longer than they do in training. So we want to prolong that level of tension. Again, it's not race level tension, but it's preparing you for that. So when the muscles are used to contracting at a more forceful level for a longer period of time, you're less likely to have those problems on race day. A quick spring overview, because we just turned into 2026. We're going to have snow, we're going to have ice, we're going to have very short days, even though they're getting longer. So we have all those things going on. So the mental set is, we have a long time until we're racing. Well, let's take a look at some numbers here. I probably should have done these in different order, so I'm going to say them in a different order than I've written them. We have 15 weeks to go until the Carmel Marathon, Half Marathon, 10K, 5K, and the Boston Marathon. So 15 weeks to go. That is a good amount of time. We have time to make some serious progress with whatever your fitness is now. We're in good shape. Now, we can't be giving away weeks. We can't be giving away workout days, but 15 weeks is plenty of time. For most of you who will be opening somewhere around, whether it's Polar Bear, 5K, 5 mile, or both, somewhere around that late February timeframe, early March, you're going to start racing. And that's just 8 weeks away. So basically 2 months until we're racing. That's why things like this are important, because now we're going to go faster, so you don't line up for a 5K and try to take off at 5K pace that you haven't run for a long period of time. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, and why we're doing it in January, which seems like a long way off. And then if we look at long runs to go, I see that I wrote an incorrect number up there. It should be 7, not 17. If we do what we typically do, there'll be some exception to this because of race schedules and so forth. But if we do long run every other week, this week is a steady state run or a steady long run. The next week will be an endurance long run. We have 7 endurance long runs to go. So that's why if you're looking at your plan and you're thinking, I'm already at 14, 16, whatever, getting ready for a Carmel Marathon or Boston Marathon, that's why. We have basically 7 opportunities left for those. So there's your week. There's an overview of your season. Let's have another good one.